So here we are in mid-February 2024, and according to the stats, by now, already 80% of us have given up on our New Year's resolutions, and only 9% will end up being successful. Now, those figures are skewed, I believe, by the sheer number of people making resolutions for the wrong reason. And it's for this reason that I think specifically New Year's resolutions suck. They're born out of a tradition that dates back to the Babylonians 4,000 years ago. And so many of us, and I've certainly been guilty of this in the past, will think up a great resolution just for the sake of tradition, which in my opinion is never good for long-term motivation and success. And with such consistently high expected and well-known failure rates, it's just like an invitation to our inner critic to pipe up with "I always give up," or "you'll never be successful," or "why bother?" We're almost conditioned to fail, so we quit, along with about 90% of all the other New Year resolutioners. But
safety in numbers and all.
But don't be discouraged. The actual thing you wanted to do in the first place was most likely a really, really good thing. So if we take the tradition of wanting to change something at the beginning of the year aspect away, then we're just talking about goal setting. But there's still a pretty high failure rate whenever goals are set, and the reasons for that are many and varied, but here are a couple of biggies and what you can do about them. Just start with why. This is a great book by Simon Sinek. I'd encourage anyone to read it. And the simple thing that I took away from it is that motivation to attain goals is greatly increased when there's a strong why that aligns with values and purpose. So many goals are set without having a meaningful why in mind. For example, if I made a resolution to eat less cake because it was the first thing that came into my head, the likelihood is that I would be eating cake again in double quick time. But if I could reframe that intention to align with my values and purpose and think along the lines of eating less cake will give me more energy to play with my kids, I'll be healthier, I'll be less likely to get ill, so I'm more able to provide for my family in the future, which for me at least would be a much stronger motivator to achieve the goal. But having a strong why isn't always enough on its own. Many goals are set that have a really strong reason for doing them, but they also fail, and then it seems even worse because failing at something that actually means something can really give currency to the bank of low self-esteem. So instead of being too attached to the result, we need to focus on the process. So there's obviously a gap between where we are now and where we want to be. And to get across this pit of shame, low self-esteem and unworthiness that your inner critic is just begging you to fall into, there needs to be a good, strong process, kind of like a bridge. Now, I, for one, would much rather be walking across a sturdy, robust bridge than some sketchy, rickety old rope bridge. And this is where many people fail, by not properly working out how to build, maintain, and happily walk across the bridge of process. I've spent so many years, more than I care to mention, being too results focused and not taking any enjoyment from the process. Always having the classic, "I'm sure I'll be happy when I get there" kind of mentality, which, FYI, just does not work. So how do we get a good process? Well, firstly, we need to figure out what needs to be done in order to bridge the gap between where we are now and the goal. So the perfectionist in you, if you're that way inclined, needs to realize that the process doesn't have to be perfect from the outset. So please don't talk yourself out of it before you've even begun. It can be tweaked, improved, made stronger along the way as you learn about yourself and understand more of what's required to achieve the goal. But it's super important that the things you need to do to get to the goal are things you can actually commit to, whether that's time, money, sacrifice, whatever. And if you can't commit to that process, then you might need to shift the goal to something that's a bit more realistic. And at least then you're matching your goal to a process that's achievable. But how to actually enjoy it? Sometimes you have to do things that are not fun, or they're boring, or just plain hard to do, and you have to do them over and over again. It's repetitive. So what's working for me right now is habit tracking, which is a thing I got from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. So using me as an example, I currently have 6 daily micro habits, mainly to accomplish the goal, which I admit is super vague, of improving my physical and mental health. So I do exercise, I take vitamin supplements, I do meditation, gratitude and journaling. Now I know having 6 daily habits sounds a lot, but I've built that up over time. You can start with just 1. So to be able to commit to them, I have a minimum requirement with each. So on a really busy day, I can get them all done in about 5 minutes. For example, my minimum requirement for exercise is 25 push-ups. And no matter how busy I am, I can prioritize 1 minute for exercise. And on days when I have more time, I'll do more. The beauty of habit tracking is that it's all about process and nothing to do with result. And every time a habit gets ticked off the list, there's this release of dopamine and a sense of achievement. And looking at an overview of the month, all the ticks that represent the progress you're making are giving constant little hits of happiness to keep the motivation and momentum up. Even just the physical act of ticking things off has become a habit in itself, so I can keep the tracker fully populated with all these glorious little ticks, whereas without it, I probably would just not bother. And then one missed day leads to the next, and before you know it, the whole process is stalled and the goal is moving further away. Habits create momentum, and with momentum, things just get easier. And by enjoying and celebrating the little wins along the way, self-esteem, resilience, and happiness grow. There's a quote I heard the other day, and it's, "We should concern ourselves not with the pursuit of happiness, but with the happiness of pursuit." There are no real guarantees to achieving our goals, and failure should not be considered a bad thing. It's as important to learn what not to do as it is to learn what to do. If the goal wasn't reached, then it was just a problem with the process, and probably most of that process was actually working quite well, but maybe just needs, a couple of tweaks. And if the goal is important to you and you have a super strong why and strong reason for doing it, you go again, but next time it will be with an even better chance of success, because you've got a better process and you're taking the pressure off the result by enjoying and being fulfilled by the process. So in summary, here are 5 takeaways that will help you achieve your goals. Number 1, start with why. Number 2, focus on process over result. Number 3, make a process you can commit to. Number 4, track and celebrate all those small wins. And number 5, failure is not a bad thing. So I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you next time. Bye.